Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Should Have Recorded That with Phil and...
Adam.
Hey, Adam, how you doing?
How did I do on the timing this week, Phil?
That was pretty good. That was
Does it
pretty
sound
good.
natural?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. That was very natural.
Oh, finally. I've managed
Yeah,
to
we're
sound
coming along.
natural. Oh, Phil, you doing okay this week?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. I mean, where I think we're all just still. Yeah, I don't. Do you get used to the situation we're in right now? So, but I'm doing all right. How about you?
I feel the same way. The new normal, we're sort of settling into it, right? The new normal doesn't feel normal. It's still exhausting, still frustrating, but there's an acquiescence to it, right? You just resign yourself to the fact that this is the way things are for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
on that delightful note,
right.
how can our friends subscribe, comment, share, like, and follow us?
So, of course, you can find us on all streaming apps, streaming platforms. I think Amazon is getting ready to come out with a podcast platform now.
Are they? We will have to get on it.
Yeah, they actually sent me an email. So about
because they want us to be
Yes.
Amazon exclusive, don't they?
Who knows? We could probably quit our teaching jobs.
Who knows? You should know. You got the email.
Well, they didn't explicitly say that, so I don't want to get your hopes up, and then we get let down.
They suggested it though. They inferred that they've been listening to Wasert Wapa, and they need us. Jeff Bezos needs us.
Right. He really needs us to help him make another $1 billion.
So we'll see 10 cents of it.
Right.
All right. Well, so people will eventually find us on Amazon? Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. But until then, you can find us everywhere else. You can also find us on Instagram and on Facebook at Wasert Wapa. And you can also find us.
I haven't been giggling enough when you say Wasert Wapa the past few episodes. So I need to bring the disruptive laughter back.
Yeah, make up for lost time. And you can also find us on YouTube by the title. So like and subscribe, everybody.
And comment.
Yes, more importantly, please comment.
Yes, we would love some comments. In fact, I have one comment. Do you have any comments, listener comments?
I don't.
All right. This is not really a comment at all on the content of our podcast. But, Phil, you do a great job of making sure that we're visible and out there and active on social media, our podcast. And that's awesome. And you tag me, my Instagram, at DradhamPotter. And you tag me. And so I'll add it to my story. And I had a friend this week who, I forget what the actual story was. It was last week's episode, though, on... what was last week's episode?
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know, part 2. That's right. And my friend commented on the Instagram story, which I reshared. Okay. I'm assuming he's talking about you don't know what you don't know. Okay. But this is now commenting on the picture of you and me. This look is everything. Fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji. So, Phil, you and I are fire, fire, fire.
All right. Triple fire. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, we appreciate that.
So, for all of our YouTube subscribers, all 4 of them, I
Yeah.
know what you're in this for. You are in this for some eye candy.
Right. Right. Yeah. You should go check it out. I don't want to spend too much time on it because we have a very, very lovely guest waiting
The
on
day
us.
has come.
Yes,
Phil,
the day
are
has
you as excited about this as I am?
I am. And for the topic that we're going to talk about, I'm really excited for this.
Yes.
Really excited.
Phil, let's set up the topic first.
Okay.
You teach at a Christian school.
I do.
I teach at a Christian school.
Yes.
We care a lot about Christian schooling.
We do.
And Phil, who did we find to talk about it?
Our number one fan.
The day has come. She's here.
Yes. Hello, Michelle.
Hello.
This is. Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
No, you get to see my response. This is how I smile the whole time when I'm listening to you guys at the beginning. I can't stop smiling. See, this is why I'm your number one fan. This is so much fun.
It is so much fun. Yes, I agree. It is so much fun in huge part because we get to have fun guests like you on, Michelle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well.
So, Phil, do you want to introduce Michelle or shall I? Michelle Selvaggio, the one and only.
I will let you introduce Michelle.
All right. Well, let's start with the professional and go to the personal. Professionally, Michelle Selvaggio is the principal of Rochester Christian School here in Rochester, New York. She joined the RCS faculty in 2008. She has a bachelor's degree from St. John Fisher College and a master's degree from Nazareth College, and she is taking on the world.
Yeah.
Personally, I got to know Michelle when I began attending our church together, and I think I knew Michelle. Michelle, you and I joined you for dinner at least once, maybe probably more than that, a couple of times before I joined the staff. Is my memory serving me?
I think so. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I knew Michelle from across the dinner table. Oh, I remember our very first interaction at dinner was we bonded over being mutual introverts and our utter annoyance at extroverts who just simply didn't understand the world.
That is true.
Yes.
I might have said it's okay if you just want to sit on the couch and we won't talk. I might have said something like that.
I think I did for a few minutes. And yeah, so that was great. And then when I joined staff at the church as the choir director, Michelle became star alto / teacher's pet. And so for our loyal audience who knows of the famous Michelle Selvaggio, our number one fan, you know that her need for the teacher's approval is very deep-seated.
It is.
So welcome, Michelle.
I've learned a lot about myself from our relationship, I think.
Oh, well,
I'm also I'm really impressed with your research. Like you research, I'm like, how does he know all this? Clearly you went on the school website.
Because the RCS website, they have a faculty staff list. So, let's jump right in. Michelle, why do you choose to be an educator at a Christian school?
That is a fantastic question. So I didn't start out that way. I didn't go to Christian school. It wasn't actually something that anyone I really knew did. But then when I went to get my master's for teaching, there was a few things that happened, and I started to really wonder about the philosophy of education, and it was just kind of in the back of my mind. And then I got my master's in 2000 and started teaching here, but then Anthony went to seminary, and I needed a job. And I found out that there was a job opening at a Christian school. So I wanted the job. And so what does Michelle do when she wants something? She researches and makes sure that she can be the teacher's pet in the interview, right? Yeah. So I did a bunch of research, and I'm like, holy cow, this is amazing. I love this. I just started reading all this stuff. Then I went to the interview, and I will never forget this one guy on the committee. He was like, that was a really good answer. Like that. And I was like, that's because I was just reading all of this stuff about. So I just fell in love with, I'm like, this is how we should be educating our children. This is God's world, and we need to think his thoughts after him. And that's how we really learn. And we're doing our Christian children a disservice if we are not engaging with the world that he created in a particular way. And I think that having Christians teach our children about the world is really just key to really getting a fantastic education. So that's where I started. And I will say that I taught for a couple years at that school. I loved that school. It was a great school. And then Anthony took a pastorate, and I took a little break. And then we were coming back to Rochester, and I will never forget somebody saying, oh, you're going to send your kids to Rochester Christian School, because they knew of it. And I said, well, I'm not sure. There's different schools that I'll look at, and I'm not sure about that school. I hear different things, and maybe you should go down there. I was talking to the principal at the school I taught at, and I said, maybe you should go up to Rochester and run it there and make some good changes to it, and then I'll like it. And he looked at me with the most serious expression, and he said, I think maybe that will be your job. And I was not at all, that was not on my radar in any way. And I really didn't take it as anything, but I've thought about that so often since. And it turns out that it really is a great school. It was great before I got there. But I have thought about that and really making it my mission to leave it even better place later on. So, yeah.
Gosh, that's so good. Yeah, it's amazing when someone sees leadership potential in us that we never saw in ourselves, isn't it?
Yes, I would definitely say that he saw that. That was not in any way on my radar. No way.
Yeah. So you said that you when you were preparing for your interview at a Christian school, you did a lot of research. So in the midst of that research and through your years of experience, have you articulated, a philosophy of Christian education, the why behind Christian education and how it differs from other kinds of education, other models of education?
Sure, and that could be a really, really long conversation, but
of course.
I like the way that it distills down in the mission of the school, because we talk about how we are equipping the head, heart, and hands of students through God's word and academic excellence. And that idea of the head obviously is really important for schooling. We want to engage their minds, but also their hearts, because we want to move their wills. And that's where you get to the real importance of Christian education is if we believe that we are made in the image of God, and that we are appealing to that sense of God made you for a purpose right from the very beginning, then we're going to motivate them. If you love God and you love his world, then you need to, then that gets the hands part. Then we want to send you out to be his hands and feet in the world. And I really think that it is critical to look at the whole person, and then also the whole life of the person, and not compartmentalizing. My philosophy of Christian education is not compartmentalizing home, school, church. Those things are working together to bring up the child. So, and really, as an educator in a Christian school, I consider myself in loco parentis, right? I am taking the place of the parent. They have given me authority in a particular realm for their child. And I like to talk to the middle schoolers about how they're obeying the fifth commandment when they obey me, because their parents have given me authority in their lives, and that their job is to obey me. So, but there is a real sense in which we are standing in that place, and we talk a lot about partnering with the parents, because their job is to raise their children in the Lord, and so we are coming alongside them to help them in this with academic excellence in the realm of education. I told you I could talk a lot. You're going to have to cut me off.
No, we don't want to cut you off.
No, yeah, we don't want to do that at all. I do want to, maybe if you could elaborate, maybe more than what you have, this idea of thinking the thoughts of God, or thinking the way that God thinks about the world. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like, what does that look like?
I can. So this is really philosophical, though. If you go into one of my favorite people to read about Christian education is Cornelius van Til. So if you go back to the Dutch had a lot of great stuff to say about education, and he even talks about how it. And I don't go this far except on a philosophical level, but he talks about how you can't really teach 2 times 2 is 4 unless you understand that God created the fact that 2 times 2 equals 4. That Christians and non-Christians actually understand that concept very differently, because they're not, a non-Christian isn't looking at the full orbedness of 2 times 2 equals 4. And that gets too deep for me even to understand. But I know that he's onto something, that if I'm not acknowledging the Creator, then I can't fully understand anything. I have to acknowledge that this is his idea, this is his creation, this is his creativity, his pattern, his way that language comes together and works in this amazing way. And if I understand that only for what it is on a page, I'm not fully understanding it in a real and true sense. So everything we're doing is thinking God's thoughts after him. Whatever we learn, God has already thought. And so, and that's really motivating, I think, in terms of learning. That's what makes me excited about it. That's what makes, that sense, that aha moment that we love as teachers. God feels that all the time toward us. And I think that's so cool to think about. So that gets me excited about education, Christian education.
Just as an aside, Michelle, did you at any point in your childhood, adolescence, early adult years attend Christian school?
I did not. Not.
So you really did come to this from an outsider's perspective.
I really did.
Yeah. So that means that you then have the perspective of, the personal experience in other models of education. So maybe would you just say a few words about, Christian education in a school setting versus Christian education in a home setting versus public school, etc.?
Yeah, that is really great, because I also want to be clear that there are a couple of downsides to the Christian school model, the way that it works, at least in my life, right? My experience in my particular school. One of them is that we don't have the resources that the public school has. So I want to be very clear that there are times when I have to turn a student away because we can't support that particular student's learning because of either they're developmentally, they're not quite where they should be, or there's some other there's a learning disability, or there's some other impairment that makes it so that they need more support than I can give. It always breaks my heart, but we work very closely actually with our public school district to support the kids when we can. And they have some great resources and some great people too. I want to be really clear that I don't see some Christian educators really see public school as an evil, right? They're in there to brainwash our children and and all of those things. I really don't think that that is true for the vast majority of teachers in public schools. And there's a lot that they have to offer. So I want to be clear about that. And then, so sometimes Christian parents would either have to, because the other thing is it's expensive to send your kids to Christian school, right? You have to pay for it. I always like to be clear that it's not free to send your kids to a public school, because there's these things called school taxes that we all pay. And it's not completely true that you get nothing for those taxes if you send them to a Christian school, because we do get, in New York anyway, we get busing in New York, we get textbooks, we get those services from the public school. So we do work together somewhat. But not everyone can afford Christian school. So although I would love to see that changed, I know that there are good teachers in public school, and I know that parents I think that if you're sending your kids to a public school, you just have to be very involved in what they're learning and bringing home in a way that is a little bit different. You're not going to be able to trust the teacher the same way that you are in a Christian school or you're going to have to supplement that. You're going to have to take it that next step and say, let's talk about what this means in terms of thinking God's thoughts after him, right? And then there's homeschooling. There's a variety of reasons why you would choose to homeschool, and one of them is the expense of Christian school. Maybe you're far away from a Christian school. Rochester's not exactly the hotbed of Christian schools. It's not like certain places in our country. There's a lot more, yeah. So there are good reasons to homeschool there too. I think that the beauty of Christian school is that it brings together that sense of community and other Christian adults with your children and teaching them things that sometimes they don't want to hear from you. But I think I've wandered a little bit far afield. You can bring me back if I didn't answer that. But
no, that was excellent.
Yeah, I think as we're kind of talking about education, and I to go back to what you were saying about not compartmentalizing everything, and even with what we're talking about now, the idea of community and sending the student into the community after they're done with their education, right? I mean, because ultimately the child doesn't belong to the parent or to the teacher or to the pastor. They belong to God. And like you said, for them to do that work, how do you see the kind of the connection between schooling and the community and how they connect and to raise children?
That's a great question. And we do ask, we talk a lot with our older kids about going out into the community and we do service projects. We talk to them about things that are going on in the world. We're having a conversation tomorrow about racism with our 8th grade students, because we talk to them a lot about equipping them to go out into the world and to and that God is calling them, and that no matter what He's calling them to, they are to do it for His glory. So their job is to go out and impact their community. And we only go up to 8th grade, and some of our kids go into public school for high school, and we talk to them about impacting their high school. We talk to them about impacting just their grade or their friend group in high school. So we talk a lot about what it means to go out and transform the world for Jesus Christ, but then we bring it down to, okay, you don't have to do that tomorrow. Tomorrow you're going to, it's going to be your friend group, but as you go through, engaging the community is really important. And I do think that that's an important thing to bring up in terms of, I think sometimes parents send their kids to Christian school because they think that that's a safe place for them to be. And hopefully it is. I mean, we talk a lot about keeping our school as a safe place. Right. But sometimes by safe, they mean that they're never going to be exposed to things that happen. And I have news for you. As a good Calvinist, I believe that students are depraved, and they are going to get in trouble, and they are naughty. And sometimes, I had a teacher recently who said, what if that kid wants to be naughty? Like, we shouldn't have people. And I thought, sometimes kids just need to be kids too, right? They sort of need to get that out. They need to push those boundaries. That's what middle school is all about, right? And we let them do that, and we they drive us crazy, but it's really important time for them, and they have to be able to do that. And so sometimes they're bad. They say things they shouldn't say. They go places they shouldn't go, and they do all of those things. And so I'm always very careful if a parent says, "I'm really interested in your school because public school is so bad, and there's just so many bad kids, and there's so many bad things they're being exposed to." It's a big red flag for me, because we're not here to shelter them from the world. We're here to come alongside them and lead them and guide them as they engage the world, and teach them how to engage the world in a biblical way, how to have a biblical worldview about these things, not to keep them away from them. So I think that's a really important point too.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
there's B.
Like every episode of Wassertwapa, we get a good B interruption.
I would have been so disappointed had that not happened on my episode. So
it's guaranteed. I mean, we record for at least 45 minutes. There's no way she's not going to bark for that long. Michelle, I'm curious, and I don't actually know the answer to this in your context. There are some models, and I speak as a professor at a Christian college, there are some models of Christian higher ed where you are, in order to attend there, you need to be a professing Christian. And then there are other models of higher ed, like the one that I am in, where the institution is very upfront about its identity and about the ways it differs from a secular institution and what a student is going to learn there. But if someone who is not a professing Christian chooses to enroll at the school, they are welcome to do so. What is that like in your context?
I'm glad you asked, because we are the only covenantal school in this area. And what that means is that we require that at least one of the parents be a believing member of a church. Okay. And we require a pastoral reference as part of the enrollment process. A lot of people sort of are very shocked by that because there's not a lot of covenantal schools around here. Most are missional. Missional would be, yes, we're very upfront about who we are. We are absolutely going to preach Jesus to you, and as long as you sign on for that, we're all good. And I absolutely believe that there's a place for missional schools. Because we are in the Dutch tradition, they were very much that we are coming alongside you, where we will evangelize, but we are not the only, that is not our primary role. Our primary role is to educate children of Christian parents, that three-legged stool idea of the church, home, and school. So, yeah. Yeah,
I like that. What do you see as, so that's sort of a philosophical explanation. What do you see as the on-the-ground practical benefits of either model?
Can I give you, I'm going to give you an actual example of when it worked really well in my experience. This was just last year, and this goes back to the whole they get in trouble sometimes situation. So I had 2 middle school girls who made very poor choices on social media, and I got screenshots of what they were doing on social media, and it was really not good. And so at that point, I had to bring discipline. So one of the families that were not, church was not a priority in their life, basically told me that we were a terrible institution and how dare we discipline their child, and they left the school. The other girl, the parents, when I contacted them, they said, as soon as we found out what was going on, we contacted our pastor. We were going to leave because we're humiliated, but our pastor encouraged us not to. Our pastor encouraged us to talk to you, to sit down. And we talked about grace, and we talked about repentance, and we talked about forgiveness, and we talked about how there was a place for her, and how much we loved her, and how much we wanted her back. and it was perfect. It was just perfect. And she has become she's just a lovely young girl who made a bad choice. And she took her punishment and she came back. And that pastor and those parents and our school just came together to surround that child with proper discipline, but amazing extensions of grace as well. And it just worked perfectly. And I feel like, I don't know how you do that in a missional school. I mean, I assume that you just give them their punishment. And you talk to them about those things. But I don't know that you would be able to see the really transformative power of biblical discipline the same way that I could see it there. And it doesn't always work that well. But it really did in that case. And I think that it's just because the parents' philosophy and the church's philosophy and the school's philosophy were all the same on this. And it worked out really well. So
Yes. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. You're making a very good case for this model, because I mean, as I was thinking about going into education, I mean, I really realized that, if when your parents are not with you, you're kind of fighting an uphill battle. Like, it is an uphill battle.
yes, it is.
I mean, you shake your head. So I just thought, so like you're making, I'm like, yeah, this seems so great. It seems so great that, like you said, the parents and the pastor and the school were able to come and surround this girl. Yes, there are consequences, but this doesn't this doesn't take the grace of God out of your life, or you're not a child of God anymore because of this, whatever it was, sin or mistake, whatever. You're still a child of God and you're still loved. Well, yeah.
Absolutely. Phil, I don't need a music teacher right now, but I'm making the case. Just saying.
As Phil's
we'll
former
see.
professor, I must say he has my highest recommendation.
I appreciate it. Appreciate the recommendation and the future job. We'll see.
Phil, I know how much you miss the snow.
That's what I was just about to comment on. I wouldn't mind it as much, especially, I moved to South Florida where it's never cold. So
Yes.
so I wouldn't mind that now.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind. One of the things, as we're kind of like going from the community, the school, to the actual student, and thinking about how to help them think critically, as we talk about thinking the thoughts after God. Like, how do you kind of help students not just know these facts, but be able to go into the world and look at problems and try to think through them?
Yeah, it's so important and really, really critical to our mission. The principal before me did a really great job of helping guide our faculty into looking at what essential questions should look like in a Christian school. Anybody who teaches knows about essential questions, right? That's the core thing that you want them to get out of the lesson or the unit or the whatever. And at Rochester Christian School, when we talk about essential questions, we're talking about how we integrate faith into that lesson or that unit. It doesn't have to be every day, because that can get fake, right? But a unit, the teacher should be thinking about an essential question that integrates faith into that unit. And this is how we get students to think critically about what this means about God. So even from the youngest grades up through 8th grade, when I was a ELA teacher, we did a poetry unit every year, and in 6th grade. And my essential question for that unit was, why did God include poetry in the Bible? Now, see, you've learned all these elements of poetry. You've learned what poetry is. You've created some poetry. Now, why did God put that in the Bible? Why would that be something, we think about the Bible as an informational text, but here's all this poetry. What does that tell you about who God is? What does that tell you about the way that you should be reading those passages of Scripture differently than you read the letters in Scripture? Those kinds of things which really make kids really start to think a little bit differently about what they're learning. And, in math class, we talk about, what does the fact that you're seeing this pattern tell you about who God is? Yes. What is the fact that you're creating this in art? What does that tell you about the type of God you serve and what he calls you to do as a co-creator or as a, mini creator of these different things? So that's how we start to get at those critical thinking questions at our school.
That's so good.
I really like those. I really like it when that's one of my favorite things to do as a principal now is to go in and when I observe and I'll be looking for the essential question, and then when I have a new teacher, especially when they go to Roberts, then they've got some kind of sense of what's going to be asked of them there. But if they're coming from someplace else, then they're like, what are you talking about? And I really love to, let's just start thinking about this. And then they get excited about it. And then, when a brand new teacher candidate comes along and we start talking about faith integration, because we don't want faith to be something that you put on the side. It needs to be woven throughout everything that you're doing. They'll say, well, I'm going to integrate faith in because I'm going to, put this verse on they'll use this verse to do their handwriting. And I'll be like, nope, that's not what I mean. It's not what I mean by integrating faith, right? We want to talk about how language works and how, when you're doing that handwriting, you should be thinking about, God made this language and you're making these things, and what does that say about who he is, and what does that say about who you are and what your responsibility is, those kinds of things. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. I really like that part of my job.
I wish I'd gone to RCS.
I know. And I have to say, having two kids who graduated from there, it's a little sad to say they're not there anymore, just because that's it's a good community and good, but they will from time to time, they'll say something and they'll be like, I don't know about this. They're not really talking about, I think this is really important. They should be looking at this way so you can tell that the critical thinking sort of, it is working in there.
Yes.
As much as they push against it in middle school, right? It is there. It comes back.
The extra work, it's because it's more than just getting the right answer. It's more more than that.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And those math kids, they don't like it because there's no right answer either. They're like, just tell me the answer. Like, there isn't a right answer. I just want you to think about it. I just want to talk about it. Yeah.
I think that's kind of been I remember having a student. We started with the music, having them listen and say whether it's ascending or descending. And before I started this little quiz or whatever, student asked me, so what happens when I get it wrong, or if I don't get them all right? And I said to him, we're gonna keep working on it. We're gonna come back. I'm gonna do exercises to help you build that skill to grow in your listening. So like this whole idea of just like having the right answer, like, or needing to get the right answer, going beyond just needing to get the right answer. As part of experiencing God's creation, I think that's really cool. It's really good.
Absolutely. What they do with failure is really important too. We talk about that all the time, about God's grace being new every morning, and He didn't make us to get it all right. And if you're not getting it wrong, if you're not getting anything wrong, then you're not learning. I'm not challenging you enough, They don't like that, though. There's something about the way I don't know, we're sending the wrong message societally, I think, to our kids about failure and about having the right answer. Or be able to Google it so I know it. Do you though? I don't. Let's talk about that a little bit more. So that's a really important thing that you're saying there, Phil. It's true.
God, we have to have you on again, Michelle.
Because like so many of these things are like we could talk about this forever. Because like I mean, could you just like unpack that a little bit more? Whole idea of how to help them fail well. You know, like how do you do that?
Well, you fail them. You know what's really hard. What I think. Let's circle back around to that parents question, because I think one of the things that we face is that parents don't want to let their kids fail, and I find myself telling parents all the time, let's just let them fail a little bit right now. I know that they're about to fail this, and I know that they're gonna fail because they're just not doing their homework, right? That's all. Okay, they're in 5th grade. They fail a quarter of math because they didn't do their homework. This is a great time for them to learn that lesson.
Right.
And parents do not like that message at all. They do not accept that because they might not get into the right college if they get a D in math in 5th grade. So I'm like, they will. They'll be just fine. So I do think that it starts there. And then really it's something about the environment of the classroom. There are some classrooms that I think kids are far more comfortable failing, right? It's what happens when they fail. It's what happens when they get it wrong, how they're made to feel about that, and what is left for them. Like, that was a great response that you gave when your student asked, what happens if I get them wrong? Then I'm going to help you, right? Then we're going to keep working on this together. It's a we thing. It's not that you did something wrong. Right. It's that we're still learning. Yeah. So, and I think that classroom environment is really key to helping them really understand, because they have to see it. You can tell a kid 1,000 times it's okay to fail, but then if they see how you react, if they don't do exactly what you wanted them to do, they're not going to believe what you say. So it really is about creating an environment in that classroom where they believe that.
Michelle, is there anything before we transition into our final segments? Is there anything that has gone unsaid that you would like to say?
I think we covered a lot. You let me say a lot of things. I don't know if there's anything else. I'll probably think about 10,000 things after I get off that I should have said. But I will say that here, I'll quote Luther for Phil. How's that? Yeah, Luther said something to the effect of, it is one of the deepest privileges to teach other people's children. Yeah. And I really think that is true. And I think that when you approach teaching as a great privilege to come alongside and help a parent who is stewarding the child. Phil, you said it so well at the beginning that they're not ours, right? Our kids aren't ours. They're not mine as the teacher. They're not mine as the parent. They're not yours as the pastor. Like you said before, they belong to God, and teaching them is a great privilege. And when you see it that way, I think that an awful lot of other things fall right into place. So I guess I think that's a great thing to remember.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Just because I quoted Luther, Phil. That's why you're amening.
Yep. Phil is a sucker for some Luther.
I definitely am becoming one, I'll tell you that.
All right. Well, Michelle, normally when we have a guest on, we explain to them what our final segments are.
I'm ready. I know.
You know what our final segments are. So what is your current event for this week?
Okay, I'm ready, and I also thought I'm not dumb. So what I'm going to do is just give you a current event in my own life, because I know that I can do this, because sometimes you guys do this. So I can default to this. I'm going to tell you something I'm very excited about that is about to happen, which is that our secretary had such a great idea today. Thursday at school is going to be Zoom day. And I'm like, Zoom day? She goes, yeah, we're going to wear pajamas on the bottom and then a professional top. And I'm like, this is the best idea I've ever heard. This is going to be awesome. So we're going to have all these kindergartners are going to be walking around with Oxfords and pajama bottoms on. And I think it's great.
Oh, that's too cute.
I know. So I got so excited about that. I was
I'm gonna have to take that idea.
Bill, I think
can tell that this needs
Thursday Zoom day at your school.
We already have casual Friday, so we'll just have a Zoom Friday.
There you go. There you go. I'm very excited about it. So
That is phenomenal.
I know.
Make sure you send pictures.
Okay.
Yes, please send pictures.
Oh.
Oh man.
Phil, okay, you know, actually, Phil, I'm going to volunteer to go next because I feel like you need a moment to collect yourself.
I do.
Oh, my current event for this week is just a reminder that the pandemic is still happening. On Monday, we're recording this on Tuesday. On Monday nights, I have a weekly video chat with my family back in Pennsylvania. And my mom, asked her how she's doing, and she has a cold. And I thought to myself, I haven't had any, sickness of any kind since the pandemic happened, except for my vaccine reactions, but that's a story for another day. I haven't had any sickness of any kind since the pandemic started because, if I am in a room with other people, we're all masked and distancing. And then I find out that the employee on my parents' farm is, not adhering to guidance that makes sense at all. And so then she comes to work, and who knows what germs she's carting in with her. And the church. I asked my mom, are you safe at church? And she says, I wear my mask. And then, of course, the follow-up question is, is everyone else wearing theirs? Right. And she said, no, only 3 of us. So, of course, she has a cold. And, of course, the county where my parents live is now the second highest per capita rate in the state of Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Because they're rural and they think they're immune somehow from getting this disease. Well, friends, we just ain't out of the woods yet.
No, we're not.
So that's my current event. Phil, how about you?
My current event is about the season we're in, election season. I went and voted early on Sunday.
Excellent.
So yeah, it felt good, This is my to be honest, this is are you counting how many elections you voted? This is my 3rd presidential election. I have a story for another day of why I don't have 4, but this is my 3rd presidential election voting in, and it felt good to cast that ballot. I mean, I want to say really quickly, I don't believe that it's it takes care of everything we need to do in the world, but it is part of the process. So, yeah.
Yeah. Good for you, Phil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. All right, and then we'll transition into our final segment, which is just a quick word on what we learned this week. You want to know what I learned this week or what I'll be thinking about? I will be thinking, Michelle, more after what you said about the benefits of a covenantal school and how that really that tripartite partnership between home, church, and school, when those three components of the child's life are working in union, can just shape a young person in really powerful ways. So thanks.
Yes. The Trinity.
Phil, how about you?
I think I had to say, not because it was from Luther, but because because I think it's true, and you really elaborated. I would be thinking about this, but I do think it is a great privilege to teach other people's children. Yeah, it is a privilege to teach. So thank you for that.
Yeah. How about you, Michelle? Did you learn anything this week?
This week, I learned tonight that it is just as much fun to talk to you this way as it is to listen to you guys have a conversation.
Yes.
You are very good at having a conversation. And I totally forgot about the fact that this is going to be recorded and somebody might listen to it at some point.
Yes.
It is fun to talk to you, and this has been good for my soul. So thanks for inviting me.
So that means that our standing invitation for our number one fan to make another appearance will be accepted?
At some point, sure. We'll do this again. This will be fun.
I'll just butter you up with threats
All you
that
have
you're
to
no
do-
longer the
you know-
number one fan.
Right. You know how to motivate me. It's not hard.
Oh man. No.
Oh, well, I'll let Phil say his own thanks, but thank you, Michelle, for joining us. Thank you for being such a loyal listener to the podcast. And thank you for overcoming any trepidation and having this conversation with us. It was really edifying.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, really. This was fun.
I'm glad you came on. Yes, this was very, very edifying. Very, very edifying. And I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't have been. I've enjoyed.
I don't know why it wouldn't have been either.
I don't know. I think you're more fun than Pastor Anthony. So he's going to hear that. He's going to really have some words for me.
I think he would agree with that statement.
Okay.
No, he always tells the kids that he's the fun parent. So I will have to tell him that. Maybe I've got a little bit more cred in that area now.
All right. I just gave you a little more credit. Okay.
That's right.
If Phil says it, it must be true.
All right. I'm done making a mess.
Oh, man. Phil, is there anything else for the good of the order?
Nope. That's it.
All right. Well, then, I'll say bye for now.
Adios.